what's motivating you, what's keeping you going when you want to quit.
You were the one doing, the running. You were the one doing the biking. You were the one that was doing the strokes to swim. However, you had so many people, including your wife, that were so invested. I want to know, how did you get them invested into this pursuit that you were going after?
Luck. Yep. Luck was that one.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to be a part of the community where you can listen to more content to help you be a smarter, stronger, and better equipped, successful leader. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I would love and appreciate your support. It's amazing to me to watch the community grow and read all of your comments each and every week. I can't wait to go on the journey with you. Thank you so much, and it means the world to me. On today's episode, I am joined by the amazing Sean Conway. Well, in a few moments, you're going to understand why he's amazing. Sean is a world record-breaking ultra endurance athlete who has unparalleled achievements. He shattered the record of 101 consecutive Ironmans by completing 105. We'll ask why 105. We'll get there if you're wondering like me. He also became the first to swim Britain's length from bottom to top. He also is the sole finisher of the Britain length triathlon. Conway boasts the world's longest triathlon of 4,200 miles, holds a record for the fastest self-supported cycle across Europe. He covered Ukraine and Russia, which was probably tense, and circumnavigated the globe on bike, even after having a very damaging accident. He also is the founder of the Global 496 Challenge, which we'll hear about, which you just completed, the latest version of it. Sean, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was quite an intro. I might record that and use that in my talks.
There you go. Go for it. It's good. It's good. Man, I'm excited to, jump in here and learn about kind of this development of the person that you've kind of evolved to being. As I've learned about you, I've discovered about you, there's this, title that you take on, the real Ironman. And it's not a testament to your physical capabilities, but also your mental resilience. What does the term Ironman, if you think about that, what does that mean to you?
Well, that's a good question, because really that was bestowed on me by other people. That was never something I said about myself. And it's only been recent since the Iron 105, which I called Iron 105, which was the 105 full distance triathlons, full Iron distance triathlons in a row. So yeah, I sort of, part of me cringes. I'm like, I'm definitely not an Iron Man. In fact, I know that because I've been tested in labs, thinking I maybe was Iron Man, and I came back when the results came back, it was a firm no. So yeah, it's definitely when people tell me that, there's definitely a cringe in me that goes, oh, that's not me at all. I'm just a normal guy who just does silly things that are very hard because I just want it, I guess, more than other people. I think lots of people could do what I do. I just maybe have that part of me that really wants it more for some reason. And I keep getting told to go and find what that reason is. And speak to professionals, but I'm too scared that they're going to fix me. And I quite like where I am at the moment. I quite like having this fire in my belly. I don't want that to go away. So, yeah, that's kind of it, really, I think.
If we look at the credentials of Ironman, which is, complete the swim, the bike, the run, right? You've done that. You've done that numerous times.
105 times, but I've actually never done an official race.
Yeah,
so,
well, that doesn't matter. I mean, come on. Yeah, whatever. Like, that's people that are just want to get that little tattoo to say that I've done it. Whereas, anyone that comes to you and says, I don't think so, Sean, it doesn't count because you didn't officially race, they have their own problems, all right? That's the way I view that.
Yeah. No one's actually told me that, to be fair. It's just, people sort of presume that I had this long track history with Ironman, and I haven't actually. I just thought obviously I have a history in triathlon and long triathlon in my own form, like the Length of Britain triathlon and the 4,200 mile triathlon. And I've done a lot of, big swims, big bikes, big runs independently. So the the Iron 105 just seemed to be the obvious next progression for me as an endurance athlete, and it's something that, you know, in my heart, it had my name written all over it. Really, I'm sort of surprised in myself that it took so long for me to commit to it. I thought of it when the record was 50, when James Lawrence had the 50. I thought of it in 2018. But I was a bit young. I was 30. I was 37 then. I was like, nah, I think I'm too young for it. So let me wait a little bit until I was a little bit older. Could I have done it when I was 37? Probably, maybe. I might have needed a couple of years training. So I could have maybe done it when I was 40, but then it was COVID. So it sort of came when it came. And then obviously James had gone off to do the 101, which sort of did me a favor, because maybe if I'd done it when he had the 50, maybe I would have stopped at 100. Maybe I'd have stopped at 60. I don't know. Like, it got hard at like around 70, to be honest. So I had a sweet spot in the middle from like 30 to 66, I think. And then, the wheels fell off the wagon near the end.
So why, I guess the why we're talking about the Iron 105 is the record was 101. You set it for 102 with 102. There's a documentary that describes that, but I haven't necessarily seen or heard or just wonder why those extra 3.
So I always knew I was going to do 103. So 102 I had to do to break the record. I always knew from the start I wanted to see how I would cope doing one, knowing I didn't have to do it. You know, would I thrive because there was no pressure, or would I just crumble knowing, actually, I've got the record now, so it doesn't really matter? And actually, I thrived. I really did. I really thrived. At around 90 was always when I was going to make that call whether I would go on. So I printed numbers up to 123 because I just thought, what's the next cool number? 1, 2, 3, I'll do that. So there was always that potential. And that was also part of my sort of manifestation going into it, knowing that, you know, it's a done deal. In fact, it's such a done deal, I'm going to spend another £200 printing numbers and caps up to 123, you know, which is money I didn't need to spend, right? So again, that was me going into it with no plan B. It's a done deal. You know, I'm so confident that it's, you know, I'm going to go all the way through to 123. So again, that's just a brain hack that I do to myself, you know, I genuinely believe it. You know, I genuinely believe everything I've done, even though I've failed at many. When I go into it, I do believe that it's a done deal. I just have to follow the process that I've spent 12 years practicing, you know, and all the other records. And there's 10.5 pillars of endurance, which we can talk about. It's nailing each one of those every single day, and, you know, micromanaging every single little thing, you know, that I never got blisters because I nail them within the first minute of feeling them. You know, I'll get tape on them, I get Vaseline on them, whatever. You know what? I've got all the tricks that I've learned over time, and that experience comes into it, right? So around 90, I sort of was speaking to my wife, Caroline, and, you know, by now she's had a tougher time than me. You know, so she's self-employed, she's solo parenting a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, you know, and I sort of came home one night. I'd get home roughly about 8 o'clock at night or 7:30 and try and be in bed by 8. And in that half an hour, I was like, I think I want to carry on. And the words that came out of her mouth were very supportive, but the look at her face was just like, don't do this to me, man. Like, please just come home and be a dad, and, you know, just, you know. And I was like, okay, right. So fair enough. Okay, I get it. Going to 123, just like, that's just unfair. My kids need me. And I'm also not really in the business to try and make the record unattainable for other people. Sort of I have no interest in that either. So I said to her, right, well, I'm going to do 103. And then I tell you what, why don't we let the internet decide if I carry on from there? Thinking that would be a pretty good way of doing it. So I did 103, and then I got the internet to decide for 104, yes or no. And it was overwhelming. Yeah, carry on. And then I sort of suddenly realized, well, actually, that's a stupid way of doing it, because of course the internet, and I should have seen that coming, of course the internet's going to say carry on forever, right? So I thought, right. So then I went back to Karen. I said, right, well, this is a bad idea now. Why don't we just flip a coin? We flip a coin and we'll see what happens. So I flipped a coin for 104, and it said go to do 105, did 105, flipped a coin again, and it said stop. And for me, that was good for me to stop because two things. One, the coin told me to stop. It wasn't me giving up. I think if I just decided to stop, I'd be sitting here going, "Oh, I definitely could have carried on." But you know what? The coin said stop, and I've got to listen to the coin. The coin's very important. Your coin has power, so I can't disobey the coin, of course. And that was a nice way to end it. It was a nice way to end it. It meant, I broke the record. I didn't make it crazy because I could have. I genuinely feel like I could have carried on forever. I had a bit of a hip issue, but my times were pretty good. I was hovering around the 14-hour mark towards the end. I think I did 13:15 was my fastest, but hovering around 14, which was the sweet spot for me, which gave me 10 hours recovery and 8 hours sleep, because I had about half an hour from waking up to being in the pool was 31 minutes. And then annoyingly from finishing the run, I had, like, on a bad day of traffic, I had half an hour to get home, even 40 minutes on Fridays, when all the traffic comes into North Wales. So there was a bit of that commute. So that really kind of annoyed, didn't it messed up my recovery a little bit. I tried to drink and eat on that drive, but the only thing I found useful for on that one was doing my social media update, actually, myself personally, rather than getting my crew to do it, right? So I was like, right, well, it's 105 now. I know in my heart it could have been more, but as I said, I quite like that, someone else is going to have a crack at it, and I'm going to help them,
There's several points there that you made. And the first one I picked up learning about you is the amount of humility you have. And I say that earnestly. I gather it in the few moments we've talked already and previous to that. And one thing that you mentioned, and I believe this is important. We talked earlier about being a dad, a husband. You talk about the impact of your wife making those decisions, right? And you said, I couldn't do that for her. To me, those are Ironman elements, meaning I see not only what I want to achieve, but I see outside of myself and how it affects others. So with that laid in there, kind of like think about the traits that you've developed that allowed you to be in that place where you put your selfish desires behind and yet, chose to like be this great figure, for people that are aspiring in, the endurance sports. Just give me some thoughts as I say that, or as you think about those relationships, your kids and your wife, how that, relates to this idea of being an Ironman.
Yeah, it's a fine balance, to be honest, because it's getting so competitive, this ultra endurance world, or even just in the world of sport. You sort of really have to be selfish to go into it. Most individual sports are fairly, I don't want to say selfish, because I think a lot of people get a lot from sport, from watching other people do even solo individual sports like athletics and swimming and whatever, and ultra endurance running, cycling, all that sort of thing. So I think it has a very important place in society. However, it is inherently a me game. However, I get a lot of sort of positive energy from my kids and from my wife and from the community. That's one of the pillars, the 10.5 pillars, is community. So it definitely helps being grounded within that community, because I would still do it. If no one was watching, I would still do it. So I have this innate desire and need to feed the terrier in me and scratch that itch. So even if no one was watching and I was on a desert island on my own, I'd probably do Ironmans around the desert island, right? So I have to do it. But you're right. There is this balancing act of, yes, some weeks I should be training 30 hours a week, but I just can't. And I've got to balance that with, doing the school run and being a dad and being a provider and all that sort of thing, and supporting my wife, who's self-employed as well, to go off and do her, follow her own dreams, as she, she's supporting mine, I'm supporting her. So we've got such a really good little unit here at home, which I'm very proud to have made, and yes, there's a couple of things that maybe I could have gone faster across Europe if I'd had a little bit more time to train and not so many school runs and that sort of thing. But you know what? I still broke the record by 8 hours, and even though I had a real tough time in Russia. But yeah, it is a fine balancing act. And what I don't want to do, and I'm very aware of this, luckily, somehow, and I think maybe it's looking at some other case scenarios, and I've got quite a few ultra endurance friends who are not in relationships and they don't have kids, and I see how, part of me is quite jealous. Like, oh, they can just train all day. And I love training, honestly. If you set me a training program, I'll probably be the best person ever to follow that. Like, getting that little green tick on Training Peaks is such a buzz for me. So I'm really good at following training programs and writing my own and all that sort of thing. So there is, of course, a little part of me that goes, oh, I could be so much better and quicker and break more records. But then, I get so much from the other side of, the non-sport side of my life, that I wouldn't trade it for the world,
Oh man, you just thank you for sharing that, and I believe not only that connects to everyone listening, especially this audience, that parents, fathers, moms, just like you and your wife, and we have to balance this. Where are we in our pursuit of career, as opposed to no, that's what we're most responsible. And it seems like an unpopular figure. You mentioned the peers of yours that are ultra athletes and they're single. They don't have anyone else in their family, and you see them do things. And I have people in my space that do that. And so as we connect the dots here, what I really, wonder from you is, as you're growing through that, right? You're doing it, you're experiencing, you just shared with me, I had to say, hey, there's more important things. But at some point, there was a dream that you had, and that dream got crushed, and you went and chased the dream. And now you have to rectify, oh, how do I live life? Right? For the audience that maybe hasn't caught up to speed yet, know that you were a professional photographer. You were doing portraits, right? And then you decided to quit that one day, become an ultra, athlete. And now you're like, no, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I'm balancing all of this. So, take me into that world of your thoughts.
So my old life, as I call it now, was, so I've had three lives. I was a kid, basically, until I was 18. And then I was a photographer. There was a bit of a crossover there. So I was a working photographer from 15 years old, doing, photos. I'd go and photograph all the sports matches at my school, and then go and get them printed, and then hustle them around the dinner table, the lunch table, for like 50p. It was in South Africa. I grew up in South Africa, so it was R5, which is about 20 pence now, like 30 cents or something. So I'm hustling photos of people playing rugby and cricket and tennis. I was just all over, right? So I was into photography from a young age, and I always dreamt of traveling the world with it. And then unfortunately, I just got sidetracked by trying to earn a wage and earn money. And I thought, well, if I earn more money, then it'll lead me to other opportunities, or it'll buy me more time. Actually, that was pretty much what I thought. I thought, if I do this rubbish photography, which is school portraits, if I do enough of it, it's going to earn me enough money, which will buy, in my mind, it would buy me some time to do the stuff I wanted. But of course, the opposite happens. You actually have less time because you get busier doing the other stuff. So I packed that in when I was 30. And then I sort of went back to the drawing board and thought, well, what was the goal? Yes, the goal was to be a photographer, but actually the goal was to travel the world as a photographer. Like, that was the passion. The passion was for me to go and discover places on the planet that no one else had ever been, and push myself and be muddy and cold and wet and miserable and hungry and tired and all these sort of things. And the camera was going to be that passport, right? And then obviously I fell out of love with photography, and I made all those mistakes. So then I'm sitting at home going, right, well, how can I go traveling now? I sort of don't have any money to just go traveling on my own. And also that doesn't excite me, just aimless wandering and that sort of thing. That was like, And then it came to me one day that I sort of remembered a guy called Mark Beaumont, who had the round the world cycling record, which he had done about 3 years previously. And it just hit me. I was just like, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could get the round the world cycling record. Had
you ever cycled much?
I had cycled the length of Britain 2 years before that, but that was very much a holiday. There was zero sort of performance element to that at all. I think I was cycling 30 miles a day, maybe 40 miles a day. So I knew how to ride a bike in a straight line, and I, with a bit of training, I knew I could cover some distance. But it's quite a big difference going from 40 miles a day to 200 miles a day, I can assure you. So I don't know what in me thought that was even possible. Even now, sitting here 12 years on, I'm like, wow, that was ballsy. But I just had to try something, right? I just was like, once it's in my head. That. Yeah, so the terrier in me only has one job in life, and that's to chase things. Now, once the ball's been thrown, I have to chase it. I don't know. Do you have a dog? I have a dog.
We have a couple, yes.
Yeah, if I throw a ball for the dog, he chases it. 100%. Every single time. I don't think I've ever thrown the ball and he's not chased it. Now, if I throw the ball and hold his collar, he goes mad. He's trying to bite me. He's like, why don't you let me chase the ball, man? And that's the same with me. Once it's in my head and I feel like I can do it and I want to do it. Well, no, not even I feel I can do it. Once I feel like it's something I want to chase, then it's easier for me to chase it than not to chase it. Much easier. It's much easier for me to go and do the horrible, miserable, cold thing than for me to sit back knowing that it's out there and I've thought of it and I want to do it and I'm not doing it. So I might as well just try, which is why I've failed. If you go on my website, I've got the hiccup section. It's why I've failed at so many things, because I often go after that ball a little bit too prematurely because maybe I'm not quite prepared enough. But, that's just the way my brain works. Once I want it, I want it. And also I'm not scared of failing. I literally don't care. Yeah, I'm just like, oh, well, that didn't work out.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm enthralled by this idea that you recognize, and it came at some point, either was as a child or whatever. It's like, whenever I have this inner desire, you mentioned the terrier, you can throw the ball for him and he can go after it, but you hold him back and it's like distraught. But you recognized at some point, as you just described, that inner desire to go chase. And whatever the result, it doesn't matter as long as I get to pursue something. I think that's such a great lesson for people to hear.
Yeah, I think chasing something, anything, whatever it is super important. The flip side with me is, which is sort of an unpopular opinion, is once the ball's been thrown, the journey for me to get to the ball is irrelevant. So, and I get a little bit of stick for, because you didn't really cycle around the world, Sean, because you barely spoke to a single person, which is true. When you're cycling 200 miles a day, you don't speak to anyone. You've got your head down and you run and you spend 3 minutes buying food in a service station and you run out. But that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I wanted to cross that finish line, in first place. I wanted to break the record. That was for me. Because if the ball that had been thrown was just, go wander around the world slowly and enjoy the scenery, that just wouldn't have, I know I would have got frustrated with that, because it didn't have a big physically and mentally difficult goal that I was working towards. And just turns out in life I need that. I wish I didn't. I wish I could just go and plant some vegetables in my garden and be happy with that. But unfortunately, my brain's not wired that way.
But you do that too.
Oh, I do that anyway.
Right?
But it scratches a small itch, because I'm a monkey as well. So I've discovered over the years that I have two character traits. I'm a monkey and I'm a terrier. And I think people say I'm probably living with ADHD, which maybe I am, but I really genuinely don't feel like it's affecting my existence in a negative way. If anything, I feel if I do have ADHD, that I've managed to channel it into quite a useful and effective way of living my life. But then I can also be super hyper-focused, which I believe ADHD people can be anyway. So I am the monkey and I'm the terrier, and the monkey likes to play things and mix things and do things with his hands. And I've always got an old classic car that I'm messing around with, and I love my veggie garden and just building anything. I'm trying to get my wife to give me the green light to build a pool in the garden with my hands, because we live on the side of a hill, so I couldn't even get a digger or anything. So I'll be there with a little spade and buckets, and I'm like, I'll do it. It'll take me 6 months. I don't care, but I just have to have.
I mean, endurance. Yeah. Like what? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that part of me that I just have to, and I know it now, and it's great, because I'll just work from goal to goal to goal. And yes, What's going to happen in 10 or 15 years' time? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll spiral into depression because I can no longer chase the things because biologically I will be performing less, which is just, that's just the game of life. I do have lots of other ideas that I think will scratch those itches. I'm very passionate about youth sport, especially here in North Wales, but even worldwide. And maybe there's a big project that'll take me away from the physical stuff and more into that side of things. But at the moment, I'm not really thinking about it. I'm 43 in April. I feel I've still got about another 7 years, I think. Until I'm 50, especially in the running space, I could do some long stuff, I think. So I'm not very good at forward thinking.
What I feel like you've rationalized, and you're just talking about it there, is you have to accept the fact that physically you may not be there. But what I hear you saying is that's only a piece and part of it because, and I just wonder, when you go chase that ball and you say you pursue that ball, is it the physical that is always the most taxing, or is it the mental, or is it the combination of both?
So over time, it's now the physical. That's by far the harder part for me because I've got all this experience. So my mental side is usually pretty strong. I never, when I did the 105
by
irons,
your experience.
Yeah, just because I've built up that resilience mentally over the last, 80,000 miles on the bike, and I don't know how many miles I've run in the last 10 years. But
when do you think you hit that point where you're like, okay, it's now mental and the physical is the bigger challenge?
Quite early on, to be honest. It was probably after I swam the length of Britain. So I cycled Land's End John O'Groats, then I cycled around the world. And then after I cycled around the world, I did a couple of other small things. And then when I swam the length of Britain, I really struggled with that mentally because it was just so cold and long. That was 4.5 months, 135 days. And I definitely didn't deal with that mentally as well. Like if I did it again now, I'd be much happier doing it. I was miserable doing that. My crew used to call me the child because I was just moaning and whining the whole time and drinking pureed food. I was blending all my meals, which I do mostly on anything that has a support element to it, a support crew element to it. Yeah, so when I finished that, I just had this confidence like, whoa, I swam the length of Britain. No other human in history has ever done that. So I think that was the turning point from a mental point of view. But then, as I said, it's become a bit of a hindrance because I often now go into stuff with such a strong belief I can do something that my body lets me down. So, then move forward to the irons. The irons is then just all of it. So that taxed me mentally massively and physically massively. So that was... Yeah, I mean, dare I say it, it's going to be difficult for me to find anything that comes close to the difficulty of 105 irons, I think, because, there's just no rest days. So because on every other record I've done, I can have shorter days, I can have rest days, as long as I get to the line faster than the other person or I go further than the other person. So yeah, whereas this one, you've got your 17 hours from once the clock starts, and if you time out, it's over. You get injured, it's over. So it was really taxing every day. Those 10.5 pillars I had to nail, I had to micromanage, I had to just steal minutes just to keep on top of the wave. Because once you start getting to a certain pace, if my pace had dropped to around 16 hours regularly, I probably would have eventually timed out because I would have just not had enough sleep to recover. So the next day I would have been slower, and then eventually it's a downhill spiral, and then you time out. So there's a lot of that to think about. But yeah, so now mostly it's my body giving up. I've got a 200-mile run in a 1-mile tunnel next Friday, so 10 days from now, and I definitely know I can do it. But my genuine concern is whether my tendons, ligaments, and fascia will cope.
Yeah.
That's my worry. Yeah. My worry is pure physical for that, for a 200-mile run with a 55-hour cutoff. So it's a fast race, that one.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I picked up in all the work, you've mentioned it, is the team around you. But you've alluded to several times, and I think it's a great time to dip into it now, the 10-point 10.5 elements, the endurance factors. I'd love for you to go into those because I think those key traits and those habits really have unlocked for you that mental piece to where you can stay consistent, where you can say to us that, oh, it's not the mental because I have a program, I have a framework. It's the physical that I'm worried about.
Yeah. Well, mental's one of the pillars. So if you're looking at doing anything that's long, and when I say long, I'm talking multiple days, maybe even weeks or months long. I mean, this might apply for if you want to do a marathon, but it's more really because on a marathon, you can wing a marathon. You can even wing a half Ironman. You can mess up your nutrition a little bit and you can have a poor night's sleep the night before. And you probably could still do it. But once you start getting to sort of Ironmans and then double Ironmans and triples and deckers and anything long, like if you want to run across America, for example, there's 10.5 pillars, I call them, that you really have to focus on every single day and absolutely nail if you want it to be sustainable. So pillar number 1 is planning. So you're planning, and that goes in the lead up of planning, but also every day you're planning. You're looking at weather, you're looking at temperature, you're looking at potential food stops and that sort of thing. So there's planning. Then there's experience. Now that's a pillar that only comes with time, of course. And you just build up experience, and that's experience of, there's 2 types of injuries, right? There's there's 2 types of pain in your body. Pain that is just pain and annoying, and pain that leads to potential long-term injury. And you really need to know the difference between those two, which is why ultra endurance favors older people, because often they carry on through the pain that they know is actually just pain. Whereas younger people go, my leg's going to fall off, because they just don't have that experience, right? Although younger people are starting to get quite good, like the Backyard Ultra, the guy who came second was 27. He did 420 miles. It's crazy. So yeah, they are getting younger, and in the Tour de France, the youngsters are doing quite well now. So that's shifting a little bit. But anyway, so where was I? So we've got planning, experience. Then you sort of got what I call fitness or conditioning. What is your body conditioned like? It needs to be conditioned to the best for what you're doing. Like when I was training for the Iron 105, there was really no point in me doing any big cardio stuff. I just needed my tendons, ligaments, and muscles and fascia to be firing. I needed to go in injury free. I needed my technique on all things. So swim, bike, run, my technique needed to be amazing. I needed to, be optimum, rather than being like really powerful and using a lot of, power muscles on the bike, for example. I just needed to be efficient at doing a 7-hour bike or a 6.5-hour bike or a 6-hour bike, rather than trying to be like super strong and doing a 4.5-hour bike. That may have built up the wrong type of muscle tissue, for example. If you build up your if you build up your power on the bike too quick, you're building fast twitch, whereas you can get your slow twitch to be strong as well. It just takes much longer. So there's that, your fitness and conditioning. Then there's health. You got to think about your health, and within the health, you've got to eat the right things. You've got to get your macros in. Within the nutrition pie chart, you've got energy, recovery, and health. And we forget the health one. We don't eat the salads and the fresh veg and that sort of thing. So part of that is, and illness. What if I got COVID in the middle of it? What if, and all that sort of stuff. So we got nutrition, of course, that's self-explanatory. Hydration, self-explanatory. Now, hydration is, again, on something self-supported where you can just pretty much, drink as much. I was drinking 10 liters of water a day, or of liquid a day. Within that, I had calories as well. Back to the nutrition, I had 3 types of nutrition. I was doing 8,000 calories a day. I was pretty good at it as well. I was doing a third of it was in the bottles in powder form. A third of it was food, actual food. And the food groups I ate were meats, milks, nuts, fruit, and grain. I didn't have many vegetables for Iron 105. Not by choice, but once my times were good and I'd come up with like a system of what I was eating, I just didn't want to change it. So I was like, right, it's working now. I'm recovering well. My times are okay. I'm just going to stick at it. I kind of wish I'd had more veg, but it's just, that's the way it is, right? And then, yeah, so nutrition. Oh, and then the third one is I had full fat cream. I was having 2,000 calories a day of full fat cream as sort of insurance calories, just to make sure I didn't lose too much weight. And it seemed to work. I only lost 3 kgs in the 3.5 months, a kg a month. So I was pretty happy with that. Then there's recovery, or sleep or recovery is the next one.
So let me go through them here. Planning, experience, fitness conditioning, health, nutrition, hydration, recovery, sleep.
Yeah, recovery, sleep. So that is, on something where you self-supported, where there's just an A to B, like across Europe, sleep is a real fine balance. Too much sleep, you get behind the record. Too little sleep, you could be too slow the next day. So you've really got to keep on top of that. But I sort of put recovery and sleep into one category, because you just got to know what works for you. And I tried everything. I did the ice. I did the compression boots, massage, all these sort of things. I was getting massage every day for the first month, but then chose to have an extra hour's sleep instead of physio on about day 30, and that was a game changer. I recovered so much better with that extra hour's sleep. So from then on, I only had physio once every week after that. So nutrition, recovery. And there's mindset. So mindset, this is the big one. What's motivating you? What's keeping you going when you want to quit? I sort of call them like you need to dangle as many carrots in front of you. What are those carrots? Why are you doing it? And it can be silly ego things like, I just want a cool pub story, or, I want to find a girlfriend. I want a cool Tinder profile, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Just put it there. For me, it was trying to be a cool dad for my future teenage kids, which apparently is a waste of time, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Raising money for charity, having a cool pub story when I'm older. I love the idea of me sitting in an old age home and some kids are running around me and, and they trip over and they hurt themselves, and I'll be like, you don't know pain, man. And I love that story. I like that. It cracks me up. So I'm like, whatever. So if, whatever's that motivating, what's that mindset? What's keeping you from not quitting? You got to keep that really in the forefront of your mind and really believe it. Then there's community. Community is the big one. I call it the snowball of life, right? Where you're the snowflake. You've got this idea, and so you will need some people to join your snowflake if you want to get the momentum, and whether that's in business or having a project like Iron 105, or even in the self-supported stuff I've done, I've still wanted that network of people. Now you're going to get people who don't want to join your snowflake, and those are the trolls and the naysayers and the internet. Keep them at arm's length. I listen to everyone's advice, because a lot of the stuff I've done, people have been like, you can't do it, you blah, 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 blah. And you've got to, filter out the truth and what real opinion and on why people think you can't do it versus people who are just jealous or just trolling you or whatever. The internet's full of weird people. But yeah, find that community of people who want to join your snowflake and create that snowball. And then once you start getting the momentum, more people want to join. And that's what you want in life. You want to create that snowball that eventually you get to a point where you just got so many people wanting to join this amazing thing that you're doing, and then it feels great because you get this community. And then also some of the people who said no at the beginning want to join, and you can say no you can sod off now, mate. And then the last one is luck. The 0.5 is luck. That is unfortunately the one you can't control, and I've had some bad luck before. Bad luck on weather, bad luck on being run over by someone else. So, often if you nail all the other things, you can make yourself have good luck. But obviously that's part of it,
Well, I mean, as I go through that list, and thank you for sharing, I hear what you're saying. That's for the endurance of it. Man, I think that's for Sean the dad. I think that's for Sean the husband. I think that's for Sean that, you talk about being an advocate for youth and sport. Man, I look at all those things and that comes into play. And so what I feel like from my perspective is you just gave us, the framework that's helped you be you. But I believe this, and maybe this is, just speaking it into you, is that's what's going to help you be that dad. So those teenage kids are like, yeah, guess what my dad did, right? You think your dad's cool. Guess what my dad did. And I feel like, and I'd love for you to kind of expound on that. If you're, someone's listening and they're at that point, they're 30 or they're 40 and they're like, do I chase the dream? What does that look like? What is that? Do I go after that ball? How did this come to you in a way that you're like, man, this is the way I'm going to live?
That's a good question. I get asked that a lot, and I'm always wary of, as in not that exact question, but I get asked a lot by people saying, "Oh, I really want to." Like individuals come up to me and say, "Oh, I've got this idea. I really want to do it, but should I quit my job and do it?" And that sort. And I'm very wary of saying to people, "Yeah, just quit your job and do it, man. Follow the dream," because I don't think it works for everyone. It worked for me.
Yeah.
And it only worked for me because I had no mortgage. I had no family. I was 30 years old. I was single. I was just renting an apartment. I sort of had nothing to lose, right? There's sort of this concept where, let's say you work a 9 to 5 that you don't particularly enjoy, but you have this other idea. You've still got 5 to 9 to do the other idea or plan the other idea, right? Because there's nothing worse. Nothing will kill your creativity or your passion for an idea than, I actually can't pay my rent tomorrow. Oh, I can't put food on the table, right? So I think there's a balance where you can, ideally, in an ideal world, which is unrealistic, but let's go with it, 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours play in a day, right? Ideally. It's not practical. No one does it, but let's just put it out there. There isn't, there is, if you really have a passion for something, like let's say you did want to cycle around the world. Now it's going to cost £10,000 because you want to do 2 years. £10,000 is probably realistic. That you don't have £10,000. Do you sort of just like quit your job, try and get some sponsorship to cycle around the world? You look at people like me, and I've got logos and I've got some amazing sponsors, and you go, right, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit my job, go and look for sponsors to get this £10,000 to cycle around the world. Now that may not happen. You may get lucky, but you may not. What's probably a better idea is keep your job, save some money, cut your expenses, and also try and get sponsors. And you might have double. You may land up at 20 grand and spend 4 years cycling around the world. So it isn't for everyone. It isn't for everyone this sort of idea of, just quit what you're doing and chase your dream and trace your passion. Because there's also the other flip side is, do you want to make a living out of your passion as well? Because sometimes that ruins it. And it ruined photography a little bit for me. This constant need for it to be my job and for it to provide food and shelter and warmth and all that sort of thing. It sort of took the fun out of it. Like at the moment, I'm really into knife making. I love making knives. And a few people have said, "Oh, you should totally just, put them on Instagram and sell them." And I'm like, no, like that's just going to ruin it for me. Like if I turn this into a business, like it's going to take all the fun out of it for me. Like, so I'm not going to do that. Right. So that's sort of my thought on that sort of thing. If you do, but also you just need to ask yourself questions of, if what you're doing is very miserable and it's bad for your mental health, and it's not good for you, then yes, there's a possibility that maybe you should stop that, but maybe find another side hustle while you want to pursue this other big dream or big goal that you have in mind. But then some people, do just like to go cold turkey like I did. So I think, I don't sort of have you should do it this way, because I think everyone's different. Everyone's circumstances are different. And especially if you've got other people depending on you, that would be, that's a whole different conversation. If I said to my wife now, "Oh, I really fancy cycling around the world, honey. I'll see you in a couple of years." That's not going to go down well, is it?
Well, I appreciate how you answer that. And the reality is it's different for everyone. But yet I distill that back to say, as you mentioned, there's still ways that you can pursue something, but just have it within the boundaries of your responsibility and I think that goes back to your 10 pillars. And that's a big part of the community. It's like, if I'm going to pull away from those closest to me because I want to be selfish, then it doesn't work. All the rest of it can be dialed in. But if that one isn't, then it's going to fall apart. There was a couple times that I picked up in your different adventures, especially like the Iron 105, how imperative having a team. It was, you were the one doing, the running, you were the one doing the biking, you were the one that was doing the strokes to swim. However, you had so many people, including your wife, that were so invested. I want to know, how did you get them invested into this pursuit that you were going after?
Luck. Yep. Luck was that one. So I attempted Iron 105, Iron 102, the year before, and I got injured. Um, and I just looked for crew. I just put adverts out to find crew. It's a very, there's a very particular type of person at a time of their life that can take 3 months off, right? 3.5 months off to come and follow a hairy ginger guy do an Ironman, right? So I don't know any of those personally, so I just had to put an advert out. So I put an advert out on social media, people applied, and I chose 2 people. And, my first attempt, they were really passionate and really good, but they were, like we all were, like myself as well. There's a couple of skill sets that they could have maybe done with that I needed, like bike mechanic, for example, and that sort of thing. But I just didn't attract that quality of person for whatever reason. I don't know why at the time. Just there were no eyes on that advert who happened to be good at bike mechanics, even though it was in the thing. So I just had to go with my gut feeling, and unfortunately I got injured anyway and only did 7 days. So second time round, I'd now lived here a little bit longer in North Wales, so I knew a few more people, and they knew a few more people. So I put an advert out. The charity I was raising money for, he knew 2 people who could apply. So he got them to apply, and then I got a third person, Phil, to apply, and then the fourth person was a childhood friend of mine, Justin, because I knew I wanted someone in my crew who loved me, someone who really had a personal interest in me, because you're right. If the others didn't like it, it's just a job for them. They could have just bailed, really, because I didn't actually know them. So when I say I got lucky, I got very lucky, because I had basically a core crew of 4 people, probably 5 with my physio. But my physio sort of was freelance, if you know what I mean, and came in just in the evenings, and he had his own job. Whereas the other 3, the other 4, the 2 Chris's who did the swim and the bike, and then Phil, who did the run and all my mechanics and my laundry, which was a horrible job for him, and Justin, they were there all day, not all day, every day. I split the shift, because I realized from the first attempt that it's too much to ask a crew member to do the same hours as me. This is what I trained for my whole life. I'm good at it. I'm eating a lot as well. I've got the adrenaline from being in it. To follow me and do it safely, all day from a crew point of view, I just didn't think that was good. So that's why I split the crews. So one of the Chris's did the morning, and then Phil did the afternoon, and then Justin did do the whole day, but he was social media, so he had some downtime, and then he got the weekends off. There's a couple of extra people who came in and helped out when Phil had a week off. So there was Vicky, and then I had one main physio, Simon, and then Charlie, and a couple others stepped in here and there when I needed them as well. So I did have this big team, but actually the core was only ever 2 people with me. So I had Chris and Justin for the swim and the bike, and then I had Phil and Justin for the run, basically. With Justin doing social media, so he wasn't near me the whole time, but basically, yeah, that's how it worked, and they were incredible, because really, the brief was, and this is the planning part that I did, and with the experience attached to it, I wrote an idiot-proof guide. Right, these are the supplements I take in the morning. So Athletic Greens, here it is, 1 scoop in a thing of water, 500 mils, idiot-proof. There we go. These are, I was taking some magnesium, a multivit, some cod oil, vitamin D, and 2 electrolyte tablets in the morning, and they were pre-packaged. So I had 105 of these little pots with all the pills. So again, idiot proof. They just take a pot and give it to me, and this is the food I want in the morning, and this is the time I want the food. And I had my stops were every 90 minutes at the same place. I did 3 laps on the bike. This was the laundry, and because there was some, I had to move kit, because I used the same shirt. So the shirt I finished the run in eventually somehow needed to be at the pool 2 days later, so that I could wear that one for the bike and the run. So there was a sort of like clever system of laundry that had to be moved around from one house to another car, into the back of a van, and then pedals. I only had 1 set of power pedals, because I wanted this consistency in data. So 1 set of power pedals, 1 cycle computer, 2 watches, in case one failed. There was, there's charging of those, and those had to go from one car to another car, and that sort of thing. So there was a whole lot of logistics, which was literally written down on a piece of paper. So if one of them got ill, someone else could come in and go, well, right, so 4:29, Sean wakes up. Cool, job done. If he's not, Justin was at home staying with me, so he got to wake me up if I overslept a mile up. 4:29, I'm up. 4:38, I get in the car. I'm in the pool at 4:59, and I've had this, and this. I do my swim. I get out the swim. My toothbrush is there, ready with toothpaste on, because if you gum health was super important for me for loads of reasons. So I was like, right, got to brush my teeth. Showers on, clothes are all ready, numbers are pinned on the jerseys. It's all laid out, everything. I literally just didn't have to think. I just that was the only way to, because you've got to limit your so part that mindset pillar, the motivation and mindset pillar. I needed to limit my thinking. I needed to have as little decision making as possible, which why eventually doing the same route every day actually became quite comforting for me, because it meant I knew exactly how fast to take each corner. I knew exactly where every pothole was. I knew the bits where traffic would back up behind us quite a lot. I was on very busy sort of English and Welsh lanes. But at least because I had 75 junctions. So the downside of that is I was slowing down and spiking on the power 75 times on each day, which was annoying. But the good side is the traffic that was behind me for 2 or 3 minutes never got annoyed, because I'd pulled off on a side road, but by the time they got annoyed. So there was, at least that was kind of good there. But yeah, so I knew the course backwards by the end, and that was nice because it meant I could switch off. I knew the bits where I had to get off the aero bars and be on the hoods because the road was a bit rough, or there was a pothole, or this is a bit that I know a car often pulls out because it's a bit of a blind corner. So yeah, so there was having that crew just do everything for me. So I literally just had to do the physical stuff. Was sort of really, really essential to it, to be honest.
Well, I have one final question. What's next?
So I've got this tunnel. It's called the Tunnel. It's a 200-mile run in a 1-mile tunnel. That's next Friday, so 10 days from now. So that's just back and forth. Yeah, back and forth. So I'm really looking forward to that. So again, yeah, is that the hardest thing I've ever done in life? No. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Will I finish? I hope so. My legs feel pretty good. I'm sort of injury free. I'm still nursing the hip thing from the Ironmans, but I think I can get over it. So yeah, that's next. I'm running across Scotland later in the year. I'm cycling the length of Britain for the 3rd time with a whole bunch of people as part of an organised event in September. So that should be good. Yeah, those are the sort of the little mini ones, and I'm looking for loads of other obscure events to do in the UK, and mainly in the UK for this year. I'm umming and ahhing whether I want to have a crack at the round Wales run record. Wales is, I still believe, the only country in the world with a dedicated footpath around its entire border. So that's 1,000 miles pretty much. And that record's up for grabs, I think. Yeah. So I'll see how the tunnel goes first. See what the leg condition's like. See if my technique's good still. And then I've wanted to do it for ages, but it's something I could probably still do, next year or the year after. But I sort of want to capitalize on the conditioning I got from the Ironmans, because I did 90 hours a week of zone 2 training. I'm never doing that again. So I want to make the most of it,
That's awesome. Where can people learn more about you, Sean?
Well, if you got on Amazon Prime, there's 3 documentaries. If you just search Sean Conway on Amazon Prime, there's 3 documentaries there. I've got 7 books on Amazon as well, which I think are available worldwide. SeanConway.com shows you all the failures I've done. Otherwise, just search my name on all the socials. You can't miss me. I'm the only Sean Conway with a massive ginger beard, I believe. So, yeah, that's where you can find me, I guess.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to all the viewers, listeners for being here. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. If you could do this as well, you can help more people discover impactful people like Sean by rating and reviewing each episode. Until next time, choose to lead with impact.